It's the German wave dash. If you've never been to Berlin, this is how German people actually dance, by the way. And then when the bass drops, they all go. Anyway, guten Abend, meine Freunde. Was ist los? In this video, I'm going to talk to you about Leo. And the reason is, I was in the shower this morning singing to myself, and I started thinking about Leo. It's unrelated to the fact that I was naked at the time. But if you watch my channel, you know that I'm really interested in like character design. You know, what makes a good character, what makes a bad stance, and so on. And so this simple question came to my mind. What do I think is the best character design in Tekken? And I honestly think it might be Leo. So I jumped out of the shower and into practice mode. And it only took me a couple of minutes of mucking around to confirm my suspicion that this character design is absolutely amazing. I honestly think it might be genius. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and then by the end of the video I'm going to try and decide whether or not I owe it to myself to pick this character up, whether or not I should play her. Haven't really used her in Tekken 7, a little bit in Tag 2, but back then I was very new to Tekken. I didn't really know a whole lot about it. So let's start by talking about why I think this character design is so exceptionally clever. Two main reasons. The biggest one obviously has to do with the move list design, but the other one has to do with presentation. So I'm gonna start there. If you go back to the early days of Tekken 7 on console, one of the first YouTube videos I ever made was a guide on Leo. I used to do these like 1 hour breakdowns where I just compiled a lot of information and numbers in a video so that you could like watch it and then pick up the character, kind of like a starter package sort of thing. And the Leo guide ended up being one of my most popular videos. I think it's because back then people used to say that Leo was an S tier character and potentially the best character in the entire game, so that generated a lot of interest in her, of course. But if you go to the comment section of that video, what you'll find is that what people are debating is not whether or not this is the best character in the game, it's whether or not this character is a boy or a girl. Kind of weird, kind of interesting. Now for me, you've probably heard me refer to this character as she or her a couple of times in this video already, and that's because way back a long time ago, even before I started playing Tekken, I saw some sort of official thing where they said that her real name was Eleanor, so I just thought, okay, so it's a German female character that has a sort of hermaphroditic look, and that was it for me. And it just stuck in my mind that Leo was female. But as people will tell you, if you go to a comment section on YouTube, there are some who feel strongly that this is a male character, and Namco have sort of intentionally trolled people with it, with like releasing contradictory information. So for example, they say her name is Eleanor, but then if you go to the customization options in Tekken 7, you don't get those anime female hairstyles, and you can actually give her a goatee if you want to. And so I think if you, the reason this is interesting and the reason it sort of impresses me a little bit, if you go back to the original stated design intent for this character when Namco made her back in Tekken 6, is that they wanted to make a character that anybody could come to and anybody could enjoy. And it turns out that character gender is actually something people worry about when they pick a main. Kind of weird for me. I worry like about whether or not the character looks cool, and then I think about, you know, are they fun to play in playstyle and so on. But for example, if you go to an arcade here in Japan and you watch female Tekken players, they almost exclusively play female characters, specifically Xiaoyu and Elisa. And I'm not talking about like the pro players that you see in online tournaments and stuff. I'm talking about like any given female player that you see in the arcade. They will almost always play a female character, usually Elisa or Xiaoyu. And so it is something that people, you know, take into consideration when they pick a main. And so if you're Namco and you want to make a character that anybody can come to and anybody can enjoy, maybe you try and leave the gender of your character so ambiguous that if you want to come to the character and think it's male, you can do that, and if you want to come to it and think it's female, you can do that too. And it's almost ridiculous how hard they nailed it with Leo, because Tekken 6 came out a long time ago, but you can still go to a comment section on YouTube today and people are still debating, you know, whether or not Leo is female or male. And I think the obvious real answer is that there is no clear answer. I think the only wrong answer is, trying to have a definite answer. It's kind of like when people want a definite answer of what happens at the end of Inception. The point is that there is no real answer, and you can sort of do whatever feels fun for you. You can decide for yourself. And I think that's a pretty cool idea, and I think it worked. I mean, these days, representation and stuff in video games is a huge part of the zeitgeist, and you can get into political correctness even and all that kind of craziness, but Tekken 6 was a long time ago, and it wasn't as top of mind for a lot of people back then. And Namco didn't do this because they wanted to have representation in the game. They just had a fun idea for a character, and they really made it work. So I think that is kind of cool. And if you are, a hermaphrodite, if you are asexual, maybe transsexual, and you play Tekken, definitely let us know in the comments. Like, what do you think? Is this the right way to approach a thing like this? I honestly think it's worked out really well with Leo. I think it's a really cool design. I think the character looks amazing. The other thing when it comes to presentation is obviously how the character animates, and you have this kung fu character right now. I'm terrible at pronouncing Chinese, but I think this is called Baji Chang, which is a style of kung fu. I think that means something like 8 limbs, so you have not only hands and feet, but I think it's supposed to be knees and elbows as well. And if you go online and you look at masters of this style of kung fu, it's obvious that a lot of inspiration has come from real martial arts into designing this sort of, fantastical, overly dramatic version of the martial art that Leo has. But again, you have, design intent, something that you want to do, and they've managed to achieve it in a really impressive way with this character. I think she animates beautifully, and I think she looks cool. So for presentation, I think this character is like A+. Whether or not you think it's a really cool character, I mean, it's not the coolest looking character in the game to me, but she's up there, and I think she's amazing. And I think again, it's more about like having a vision or something that you're trying to achieve, and then whether or not you were able to achieve that. And I think Namco did a really good job with Leo. But let's move on to the thing that I think is more interesting, which is the moveless design of the character. So I want to go back to that stated design philosophy for Leo, a character that anybody can come to and anybody can enjoy. If you want to do that from a moveless perspective, what do? Well, you probably want a character that is basic enough that if you're new to the game and you're picking up Tekken for the first time, you can jump in and you can learn stuff that is like generic Tekken. So you have the down forward 1, you have a roll dash, a down forward 2, a hop kick, you have the 1-4 for the punish, classic stuff that gets carried around a lot of the roster. But then again, there's also enough depth in here that if you are an advanced Tekken veteran and you want to do stuff like you want to think about your decision making, you want to worry about your execution, you want to convert your combos in interesting ways, you should be able to do that as well. And again, it's almost insane how hard they nailed it with this character. Accessibility is obviously something that Namco have been worrying about a lot with Tekken, the thresholds to the game. And in Tekken 7 they went all out. They created a lot of new original characters that are like super basic. Claudio, Katarina, you can jump in, you can teach yourself how to do a combo with them in a couple of minutes. It's super clear what every move is supposed to do, and so on. But in Tekken 6, when they made Leo, I think they actually already perfected the sort of perfect character for beginners, because Leo is not super basic, but it's a character that will sort of educate you on how to play Tekken if you're new. You can start and you can jump in, but the character doesn't underestimate or talk down to you by giving you freebies and making everything super easy. There's just a lot of like fiber in your diet when you jump in. When you wake up in the morning and you're gonna have cereal for breakfast and you have Leo. That's the worst analogy I've ever had in one of my videos. I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. It's not like press this button and then press that button again 6 times and you have a combo. But you also learn a lot about Tekken. You have a roll dash, you have a falling leaf that is really chunky, but if you get it blocked, you're going to get launched. It's going to teach you a lot about Tekken, and so I think a lot of people who come to 7 and they maybe start out with a character like Claudio, after a while when they've learned a bit about the game, maybe they feel like, okay, this character has this reputation of being super basic, maybe I should do something else. But with Leo, you can sort of start with Leo and finish with Leo because the character just keeps on branching out and becoming more complex and interesting the more you want to do and learn with her, and I think that's the right way to do it. So if you want, fun, cool character to look at, but you also want a character that will bring people into the game and educate them on, a healthy tech, and I think Leo is really, really great for that. And then there are just a lot of interesting, weird things about this move list. By far the most powerful while standing 11 frame Punisher for some reason. It's insane how good this is, and so that's something I'm gonna enjoy if I do decide to play this character. But the fact that you can convert her combos in all these interesting ways, like you do this combo and you can cancel a dash with that spin, and that requires that you understand the mechanics of a roll dash and the fact that you can cancel a roll dash with an upward input and so on. You actually need to step and you actually need to delay some things with the character to make the combos work, and if you want to get your really good damage for your wall combo, you need to hit them with this move into Bokuo 2 with perfect timing and all the rest of it. So there's like I say, a lot of fiber with this character, and super interesting. And I think if I am this content creator who wants to worry a lot about character design and what I think is good and interesting design, and I think this is pretty much the best design in the game, quite possibly, do I owe it to myself to try and play this character? And the answer is probably yes. So maybe we'll do a thing. I'm gonna put on some clothes. I'm just joking, I did put on clothes before I started making the video. Or did I? I did. Maybe. But maybe I'll spend the rest of the day learning a little bit about Leo in practice mode, watching some videos, and then maybe trying to take her online. Maybe we should do a thing where we learn a little bit about Leo together. Unfortunately, the character is underrepresented right now, despite the fact that everybody thinks that this character is so exceptionally strong. The Season 2 changes were, some people don't really agree with them. I think the change to this move is interesting. I was talking to Arya, from Blasted Salami, who plays Leo, and how he thinks this was actually a buff to this move as opposed to a nerf, and I think he talks about that in the Season 2 videos on Leo, which I thought was interesting. But now that I've tried it out, I kind of agree. I'd rather have this move be a much safer move that is good for combos and counter hits than have it be a knockdown move and so on. But I think the reason the character is underrepresented is, well, first of all, like I said, I think it's, relatively speaking, in 6 and Tag 2 people talked about this as being kind of a basic character. Honestly, relatively speaking, in 7 I think this character is kind of advanced, and even when you do proper combos and proper things with Leo, you don't necessarily get big damage. And if you look at character usage statistics, people want basic things that do high damage. They don't want complex things that do low damage. That scares people off. But the character is probably, I think, very good. So maybe I'll teach myself some Leo. I think maybe I will. Maybe there'll be some gameplay on the character in the near future. But I hope you enjoy this video, and I'm interested to hear what you think about Leo. What do you think is the coolest or best character design in the game, and why? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.